Hello everyone, welcome to Communicative English. Today, on this video lecture, we're going to talk about something called parallelism. So, what is it? What is parallelism? The parallel structure means using the same pattern of words to show that two or more ideas have the same level of importance. So basically, parallel structure means you have two entities that you want to connect within the one sentence. Okay, so this can happen at the word, phrase, or clause level. So you can have two different words to conjoin together, or two different phrases to conjoin, or two different clauses to conjoin. And the usual way to join parallel structure is to do it with the use of coordinating conjunctions such as and or. But there are more conjunctions you can use that which I will introduce later. Anyway, so when you connect two entities together, the easiest way, the simplest way to do it is just use the conjunction. But when you look at those closely, and to make the sentence simpler, you may want to omit some parts that are overlapping with the two entities. So, for example, there are two entities, something called red car and red van. Then you want to connect these two, red car and red van. The easiest way to do it is just say red car and red van. But if you look at these closely, then the word red overlaps in both phrases, red car red and red car van. Then maybe you don't want to mention red twice when you conjoin them. So instead of saying red car and red van, you can say red car and van. Easier and simpler, right? So parallelism is most common using gerund phrases like verb plus ing or infinitives, to plus verb. So, and usually when people use this parallel structure, they often make mistakes that you do not use the parallel structure to communicate a series of ideas. So you fail to use the same structure for the same level of entities. Okay, so let's take a look at them. The first example is, without good pitching, the Marlins can be expected to lose more than 80 games to draft early in next year's draft, and attendance will suffer greatly. Okay, here we can see that there are three things happen with Marlins. They're expected to lose and to draft, and attendance will suffer greatly. So we have three entities to be conjoined together by the use of the word and, right? And when you do this, since it is parallel structure, you have to maintain the shape of it, the use of the phrases in the same structure. Here you use to infinitive, here you use to infinitive, and the last part is a sentence. Then it's not parallel. They're different. You use two infinitives and one sentence, and you connect different entities, different phrases by one conjunction word. That is wrong. You have to fix this. So before we do that, let's clarify what happened. Here there are three events happen. First, the Marlins will lose more than 80 games. And second, the Marlins will draft early in the next year's draft. And third, the Marlins' attendance will suffer greatly. So how do we connect these three events in one sentence by using parallel structure and using one conjunction of and? Here's the answer. You can either choose gerunds or to infinitives or other structures, but keep in mind that you have to use the same structure for all parallel items. Okay, so here, since we have a phrase be expected, usually this structure includes to infinitive. Okay, so here the grammatical choice of the structure is to use to infinitive. So the moralists can be expected to lose and to draft and to suffer greatly in attendance. Okay, here we can see all three events are described with the same structure of two infinitives and conjoined by one conjunction word and. And here on the next slide, let's take a look at some examples of conjunctions that can be used to parallel structures. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of correlated conjunctions. So these conjunctions connect words, phrases, and clauses that have the same level of meaning in the same sentence. So use the same grammatical structure with both elements of the correlated items are important, okay? So let's take a look at more examples of parallelism. So the first one is the faulty parallelism, and let's take a look at it. Andrew was both an industrious student and he was also an excellent athlete. Here you can see that there are two noun phrases that describe the subject of Andrew in this sentence. Andrew was both an industrious student and he was also an excellent athlete. And why is this parallelism is faulty? It is because the word, the expression, wait a minute. In both structures, you can see Andrew and he was. So you don't have to say the subject and verb twice, especially when you conjoin them with the use of conjunctions. We can make the sentence much simpler with the same meaning. How can we do this? This is the correct form. Andrew was both an industrious student and an excellent athlete. It didn't change any meaning at all, but still the structure is simpler. And also here, please notice that since an adjective plus noun, an industrious student and an excellent athlete, these pair is used with both elements, so comma is not needed in the second structure, right? So, and also when you use the comma, we talked about the comma splice before, and also I emphasized that the use of the comma has a meaning. Why do we use the comma? To help people understand the structure of the sentence. So comma is a break point. And in the first structure, they use the comma because it shows the division between the sentences. There are two subjects and two verbs in the first construction here. So it's a little bit long. So to help people, to help the readers understand the natural break point, they used the comma in the first structure. But in the second structure, the correct parallel version of it, we don't have to use it because this isn't continuous structure, right? It was conjoined by and. They both use the same adjective plus noun form, so comma is not needed. I wouldn't say that it's not right to use the comma, but it's more like it's not necessary to use the comma in the second structure. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the use of the parallel structure comes with different levels. There is a word level, phrase level, and clause level parallel structure. So now let's take a look at examples from each level. Okay, the first structure is word and phrase level. So parallel with the ing form of words is very, very common. So the first example is Mary likes hiking, swimming, and bicycling. So here there are 3 things that Mary likes: hike, swim, and bicycle. And the level of importance of these 3 activities are exactly the same. How do we know that? We do know that because they are conjoined by and. And doesn't take one more important than the other. And is simply introducing multiple items in a random order, right? So here we have 3 activities involved with the action of like, and they're all written with the form of gerund, right? And this same structure can be rewritten by using infinitive forms. Instead of saying Mary likes hiking, swimming, and bicycling, you can say Mary likes to hike, to swim, and to ride a bike. Or if you want to make it even shorter, you can say Mary likes to hike, swim, and ride a bicycle. So you can use to before all the verbs in a sentence or only before the first one. Okay? You can decide to use to before all the verbs or just use it once at the beginning of the first one. All right? So both structures are fine because the verb like can take both gerund or infinitive phrases as its object, right? But what you shouldn't do is this. Mary likes hiking, swimming, and to ride a bicycle. Okay, as I said, like can take both ing or 2 infinitive forms, but when you construct a parallel structure, you cannot mix them. Okay, you have to choose one and stick to that at least within one sentence. So you can correct it into like this. Mary likes hiking, swimming, and riding a bicycle. Another example is the production manager was asked to write his report quickly, accurately, and in a detailed manner. The problem here is that there are 3 items conjoined together by the use of conjunction and. You have to write the report in a way of quick, accurate, and detailed manner. And the problem here is that this is not parallel. The first 2 items are in adverbial forms, but the final item is prepositional phrase. So this is not parallel. So you have to fix it. How? By choosing the same type of words. Either choose adverb or choose the preposition phrase. And here, the easier and simpler way to do was to choose the adverb. So quickly, accurately, and find one adverb that can replace the phrase of in a detailed manner by thoroughly. Okay? And how about the clause level? When you conjoin 2 different sentences, you have to think about what structure you want to use. For example, here, the coach told the players, and the coach told the players 3 things. First, that they should get a lot of sleep. And second, that they should not eat too much. And third, and to do some warm-up exercises before the game. Okay, the coach told 3 things to the players, and the first 2 things are written in the form of a full sentence. After that, there is a subject and a verb. That, subject, and a verb. But the third one is constructed with 2 infinitives. This is not parallel. Even though meaning-wise, it wouldn't change the meaning of anything, but still we have to change the third option, the third sentence to do, into some form that can be parallel with the first 2 items. So my suggestion is like this. The coach told the players that they should get a lot of sleep. that they should not eat too much, and instead of saying to do, that they should do some warm-up exercises before the game. So here we have all three items aligned together by the use of and they all take that, they, should, the same form. Okay? All right. Another example is, the salesman expected that he would present his product at the meeting, that there would be time for him to show his slide presentation, and that questions would be asked by prospective buyers. So here, the salesman expected three things. He expected that he would present, and he expected that there will be time, and he expected that there will be questions. Here, if you compare to the previous slide, we can see that all three items are written in the sentence form. So it at least passed one bar. But if you take a close look at each sentence, there is a one thing not parallel to each other. And I have a hint here. Yes, the first two sentences are written in active forms, but the third one is written in passive forms. So active and passiveness is something that you want to consider before you write a sentence. Writing, and we will talk more about it later when I make a lecture of passive forms, but the difference between active and passive form is what comes to the subject. So when you write sentences in an active form, you do that because you want that noun phrase to be the subject. You know, what's important? The important noun should be the subject. So if you choose an active form, for example, like here, he will be the subject of the sentence, and that's what you value the most. This is something you want people to pay attention to. On the other hand, when you make passive form, then the object comes to the position of a subject. Why? Because you want people to pay attention to the object. So you want to put the object at the beginning of the sentence, so you use the passive form. So the choice of active and passive form has some intentions hidden underneath, but in this structure, we don't have to consider that yet, because first, we didn't talk about it yet, and second, we don't know what the author intended. But in general, when you construct sentences, it's better to choose one of either active or passive rather than using both in the same structure. If you really, if you really want to use passive voice for the third sentence, then you might want to separate it. Like, do not conjoin it to the original sentence. That's another way to do it. But here, what we are talking about is making a parallel structure. And if we do want to combine all these three events in the same sentence, then it's more appropriate to make the third sentence into an active form, like this. Instead of saying the questions will be asked, you can say the prospective buyers would ask him questions. Then now we have all three items in the sentence form and also in active voice. Okay? So here today we talked about the structure called parallel structure. And this is one of the most commonly used structure when you write an essay or any type of writing. And at the same time, people don't really think about it much, especially when they write things right outside of your mind. So my suggestion is, once you finish your writing, please recheck your writing, focusing on if you used the right parallel structure or not. Okay? So I will upload some exercises you can do about the parallel structure, and please post your assignment by the end of next Tuesday. Okay, then I'll see you all in the classroom next Friday. Be sure that we do not have class this Friday. Okay, we have no class on October 13th. Our next class will be on October 20th. All right. In the meanwhile, there will be another video lecture uploaded for October 18th. So until then, have a take care of yourself and have a nice day. Bye-bye.